Tess Holliday. She's the world's first size 22 supermodel, the largest plus-size model ever to be signed to a mainstream agency. She's also an author, a mother, and self-described body activist. She's outspoken, unapologetic, and doesn't care if you think she's glorifying obesity. And she's what?
This morning, supermodel Tess Holliday revealing her struggle with anorexia. The mother of two saying she was recently diagnosed by a psychologist, but has ultimately been struggling with disordered eating most of her life.
The revelation caught everyone by surprise and was met with mixed reactions, mostly skepticism and disbelief, but also anger.
I've had a lot of messages from folks that are anorexic that are livid and angry because they feel like I'm lying.
In order to better understand why Tess's announcement elicited such a strong response, we have to go back to the beginning, before she was a household name, gracing magazine covers and walking runways. We have to follow how she built her brand and established her following. Imagine being able to break down barriers, overcome ridicule, and decades of beauty standards to live your childhood dream. And in the process, be a voice for those who feel marginalized and who would give anything to see themselves represented in television, film, and print in a positive light. Tess Holliday would do just that. Ryan Megan Hoven was born on July 5, 1985 in Laurel, Mississippi, to parents Doug and Beth. Her parents divorced when she was young, and she was raised by her mother until the age of 10. Her mother had gotten involved with a man she was supposed to be engaged to, but he shot her twice in the head, leaving her for dead. Miraculously, her mother survived, but she was left paralyzed, so Tess went to live with her father while her mother recovered. During the time with her father, she learned he had an explosive temper and was verbally abusive, telling her she would never amount to anything, and dissuading her from pursuing activities that she wanted to participate in.
And I decided I wanted to do swim classes. I told my dad about it. He said, "Don't you think you're too big for a swim team?"
She said it was during this time that she turned to food for comfort. In addition to a turbulent home life, she was also bullied at school for being pale, overweight, and living in a trailer, and having a mom who was disabled. The bullying was relentless, and at 16, she dropped out of school.
I was bullied in school. I actually dropped out of school. I thought it would end when I got out of school, and it didn't.
She credits that decision with saving her life. She had difficulty dating due to her weight, and at 19 had a one-night stand and got pregnant with her son Riley, who's now 17. In her early 20s, she was sexually assaulted after attending a party with a colleague. She's been open about her struggles with depression, anxiety, and has never shied away from expressing moments of vulnerability. Her strength and perseverance are something to admire, as even enduring half of what she did would be enough for someone to break. She spent years pursuing her dream of being a model and faced rejection and criticism over her size, both height and weight.
Everyone always told me that I couldn't model because I was too short, too big, and I was different than everybody else.
Frustrated with negative comments that were being left on her pictures and being told that she just didn't fit the mold, she started a campaign on Instagram in 2012 that went viral using the hashtag EffYourBeautyStandards, which focused on promoting that beauty comes in many forms. She encouraged her followers to embrace their bodies and be unapologetic. She would post pictures of herself with inspirational quotes and mantras. One such post read, "I hope this makes you realize that it's okay to be yourself, even if you happen to exist in a fat body. I'm sexy, confident, and I give no fucks. Also, Fuck anyone for saying otherwise. In 2014, she was selected in Torrid's House of Dream model search and was chosen to be the face of A&E's documentary series, Heavy. This made it possible for her to leave her day job and pursue modeling full-time. In 2015, she was signed to London-based Milk Model Management's plus-size division, Curves, after the director of the modeling agency started following her on Instagram and saw her reach. She recognized that Tess was, quote, such an important role model for so many women. She became the largest plus-size model ever to be signed to a mainstream agency. In June of that year, at the age of 29, she graced the cover of People magazine, and more covers would follow. These were huge accomplishments, and they would serve as inspiration for millions of little girls who aspired to one day be a model or looked at fashion magazines and felt like they didn't fit the mold of what was considered beautiful. By 2016, she had amassed 1.1 million followers on Instagram, and Time magazine named her one of the most influential people on the internet. In 2017, she released a book titled The Not So Subtle Art of Being a Fat Girl, Loving the Skin You're In.
I talk a lot in the book about my childhood and how traumatic my childhood and my life was up until my early 20s. And I think seeing everything my mom went through, being herself and myself victims of domestic violence and sexual assaults and everything else that we've gone through, I was able to kind of, I dealt with things that most kids should not have to deal with and most people shouldn't have to deal with. And it made me really stubborn, and it made me not take no for an answer and push harder than I think most of my peers. So I'm grateful for those life experiences, even though I wouldn't wish them on anyone.
Right, absolutely.
Up to this point, Tess has been a source of empowerment, a strong force in the name of body positivity and acceptance. And her message was not one you could really take issue with. I mean, how do you turn your nose up at someone who's just trying to help people feel better about themselves? But Tess's message was starting to shift from being one of loving yourself at any size to health at every size. This was an approach to public health that fell under the fat acceptance umbrella. She would state that being fat is not indicative of one's health and that it's not anyone else's business. She started taking serious exception to being asked questions in regards to her health. When she was interviewed by Self magazine, she discussed an Instagram exchange she had had with a man who commented on one of her posts that she must be unhealthy because of her weight. She said, "I think it frustrates me that so many people have bought into the idea of what we should look like instead of actually giving a crap about everyone around you. People should mind their own business." She goes on to say that she used to respond to each inquiry and state that she was healthy or she doesn't have diabetes or high blood pressure. But now she no longer explains herself because she says, "The reality is I don't owe you shit and I don't have to prove that I'm healthy or not because it's nobody's business." Now, I agree with her on that point. She doesn't owe anyone proof of the status of her health, whether it be positive or negative. However, when you've made yourself the spokesperson for fat acceptance, you're going to get questions and critiques, not just praise and pats on the back. She boycotted Uber because she said the driver fat shamed her by asking about her cholesterol.
But what?
Cholesterol.
My cholesterol's fine. I'm perfect. Yep, I'm healthy.
She posted the end of the conversation, so we don't know what led to his question, but she wants us to believe that out of nowhere, this man just decided to ask her about her cholesterol. Maybe he did. Some people have no social graces, but Tess has a history of dishonesty and twisting things to fit her narrative, which we will get into later. In October 2018, she was featured on the cover of UK Cosmopolitan and was called out by Piers Morgan for glorifying obesity.
He said on Twitter and Good Morning Britain that he accused you of celebrating morbid obesity, branded the cover dangerous, posted on Instagram, Britain battles an ever-worsening obesity crisis. This is the new cover of Cosmo. Apparently we're supposed to view it as a huge step forward for body positivity. What a load of old baloney. The cover is just as dangerous and misguided as celebrating size 0 models.
At the end of the day, I'm not doing this for people like Piers. I'm doing this for women around the world that need to see someone that looks like me, to feel less alone and to understand that the way they look is beautiful.
Tess's response perfectly encapsulated the message she had been relaying for the last 5 years. That we're all different, we're all beautiful, and we all deserve respect. However, when they press her on the argument that obesity is unhealthy, that the financial impact of obesity-related illness is great, you can see her getting irritated. And when the host says that to Pierce's point, her cover could be seen as an endorsement of obesity, she counters and does something interesting. She attempts to deflect.
I can't even entertain that respectfully, only because I'm not putting myself on the cover and saying, hey guys, let's all gain 300 pounds and be fat. I'm literally just existing in my body, and I don't have to prove that I'm healthy to anybody. Like, I'm so incredibly grateful to be able to exist in this space that other people haven't been able to before, and my health is no one's business, and we could be talking about models that smoke like 2 packs a day that no one sees, and I could just go into a list of stuff, but at the end of the day, like, that's not really what we should be discussing.
The unhealthy practices that models have undertaken over the years to maintain their weight has been well documented.
I came into this industry as a teenager, and then I hit puberty, and I was no longer that teenager anymore. I had boobs, and my body wasn't as stick skinny anymore, so I was pressured to go back to being that runway girl.
And it is not only these practices, but the fact that the models have felt compelled to adopt them in order to maintain success in their careers.
I don't know, I feel like I was publicly shamed, but
what I was receiving for many years was that my body was not right.
Thereby relaying the message to teen girls and young women that this skinny body type is what is acceptable and attractive, that made Tess's success in the mainstream so powerful. So I find it a little disingenuous that she doesn't acknowledge that. Tess and Piers would go back and forth on Twitter for a couple of weeks, with her quipping that he must really like bigger girls. He would counter, stating that he was really concerned for her health. Her last word on the subject was to post the following video to her Instagram with the caption, "People who say I'm glorifying obesity are glorifying stupidity." Now that we have an understanding of her childhood and upbringing and how she achieved her success, we can dig into her hypocrisy and the dishonesty that I believe has led directly to the belief amongst the public that her diagnosis is not factual. In 2019, a headline appeared on Perez Hilton's site titled, "Did Tess Holliday unfollow a woman for losing weight?" Jenny Lee Molina was a fan of Tess's and participated in a photo shoot in Florida with her in 2015. They followed each other on Instagram until 2019, when Jenny posted before and after photos of her 83-pound weight loss. Tess unfollowed her because she said the weight loss posts were triggering for her, but that it wasn't personal. Jenny apologized to her and stated that she was happy being big, and that it wasn't until her doctor told her she was pre-diabetic and had high cholesterol that she decided to lose weight. She told Tess she still thought she was amazing and that she would continue to promote loving yourself at any size, as this is the most important message. Tess replied that while she may think she's promoting positivity, her captions weren't. Jenny obviously felt bad because someone she looked up to was telling her she was wrong. She said that she was not promoting the new her over the old her. She said she would be more mindful of that in the future and apologized to Tess again, this time for disappointing her, and said she was sad because she identified with Tess both then and now. She made this poor woman question herself and her own motives for losing weight and celebrating a return to health. This is the same woman who said, quote, "I think for me, it's all about accepting yourself the way you are now and loving who you are today. And if you want to work towards a better you in whatever regards, do it. But you're okay just the way you are today." That is just what Jenny did, and her idol turned her back on her and made her feel bad about herself. Tess really talks out of both sides of her face. And in case you're wondering, while weight loss is not body positive, apparently plastic surgery is. As we've learned, it is off limits to ask her about her health. That is a personal issue. Remember the Uber driver who asked her about her cholesterol?
About what?
Cholesterol.
My cholesterol's fine. I'm perfect. Yep, I'm healthy.
Well, you know what is less personal to her and completely okay to ask about out of the blue? Her sexuality. She was interviewed by Nylon magazine for their July 2019 issue, and she came out as pansexual. She shared a story about her recent vacation to Mexico. She said she was sitting at the pool bar at her hotel when a man approached her and asked her if she was bi. She replied, quote, "Thank you so much for asking. I've been thinking a lot about my relationship to my own queerness, and I think the word pansexual speaks to me more than bi does." She says that the man was actually a waiter, and he asked her, "Are you buying?" If I'm being honest, I'm not sure I believe that this exchange actually took place. Her response sounds extremely scripted. In 2020, Tess attended the Grammy Awards. She wore a Lyrica Matashi strawberry mini dress. In August of that year, the dress took TikTok by storm. Tess took to Twitter.
How you like that? You gon' like that?
Now, I've looked through 5 pages of Google search results for the best and worst dress lists from that year's Grammys. And here's what I found. All positive reviews, with the exception of Wonderwall.com. And all they wrote was, quote, "We appreciate the sweet touch on Tess Holliday's pale pink dress. Check out those cute strawberries. We felt the dress was a little too playful for an award show. Though we do give her props for the way she accessorized with those cute red sandals." So no, she wasn't placed on worst dress lists, nor did anyone reference her weight or how the dress looked. It was merely critiqued for being too casual for an award ceremony. She's even lied about something as trivial as eating McDonald's.
So no, fat people aren't fat because we just sit around and eat fucking McDonald's all day. I don't even fucking eat McDonald's. Eating McDonald's for breakfast. It's cold. It's not what I wanted.
For this next part, I just wanted to convey that I'm not stating that any of this is fact. I am merely documenting what has been posted online. Tess has a younger brother, Tad Hoven, who lives in Virginia. He does not have a strong online presence and not too much is known about him. The reason he's a point of interest in this video is what he is known for is giving Tess's book a scathing review, which has since been removed from his Goodreads page. But nothing on the internet ever truly disappears. Again, I have no opinion or comment on his review or the follow-up posts of others who claim to know Tess, but felt it needed to be included as we're trying to paint a complete picture. These are very serious allegations to make in a public forum, so I'm not surprised that he's removed the review and all the subsequent comments. So now we get into her ED, an ED that was diagnosed by her dietitian, who said, you know what, I'm gonna let Tess tell you.
And I met who I now work with, my dietitian, Anna Sweeney. And when I reached out to her, I thought that I was overeating. I thought that I was binge eating. I thought that it was everything but what she said. About 5 months into our sessions, she said, I can't diagnose you properly, but if I could, I would diagnose you as anorexia nervosa. And
she has stated previously that she has struggled with disordered eating all of her life. And I don't doubt that. As she discussed in her book, in childhood she turned to food for comfort. What I and many have a difficult time reconciling, however, is that she has stated publicly on multiple platforms that the eating disorder is defined by the National Eating Disorders Association as, quote, an eating disorder characterized by weight loss or lack of appropriate weight gain in growing children, difficulties maintaining an appropriate body weight for height, age, and stature, and in many individuals, distorted body image. People with generally restrict the number of calories and the types of food they eat. To be diagnosed with said eating disorder, according to DSM-5, all of the following criteria must be met. Restriction of energy intake relative to requirements leading to a significantly low body weight in the context of age, sex, development trajectory, and physical health. Intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat, even though underweight. Disturbance in the way in which one's body weight or shape is experienced, undue influence of body weight or shape on self-evaluation, or denial of the seriousness of the current low body weight. There is a subsection of this ED that is atypical, and it was created because there were people who, while they met criteria 2 and 3, did not meet the first criteria in regards to low body weight. Now, it is important to remember that to be diagnosed even with atypical, one must still meet the criteria of intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat. There's a reason I'm harping on this point. I'm not a physician, and I'm not attempting to diagnose anyone. And while I have suffered from disordered eating in the past, I have not experienced the particular disorder that Tess claims to have been diagnosed with. That being said, I'm merely conveying my own opinion and commentary based on interviews Tess has participated in and her social media presence, both pre and post diagnosis. It is my opinion that while Tess may have suffered and is suffering from disordered eating, it seems impossible that it was as I don't believe she meets criteria number 2. Intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat. I base this opinion on Tess's own words and actions. And it's important to note as you watch the following montage that the National Eating Disorder Association lists emotional and behavioral warning signs for this ED. 2 of those are the refusal to eat certain foods, progressing to restrictions against whole food categories, for example, no carbohydrates, that the person seems concerned about eating in public.
Alyssa had a good idea that we should ask you guys what we should name this series where we get stoned and try things that fat people are either like always. It's true. It's true, yeah, we are fat people.
We're gonna run out of time.
I'ma do what I like. I'ma eat what I like. I'ma kiss you what I like. I'ma do what I like.
I'm glad I named my book The Not So Subtle Art of Being a Fat Girl, because then everyone will hopefully get that, like, I'm fat and it's okay to say it. Because people gasp. And I'm like, I'm fat, and they're like, don't say that. I'm like, it's okay, chill.
I literally went, she just accused me of eating without her.
You were literally open-mouthed about to bite, and I haven't even sauced yet. What? You're wild. Look at you. I want it!
Wow.
It's a chalupa.
Holy shit.
1 to 10. Bullied cheddar. Ah, cheers.
Cheers to the steak. My least fave. Potato soft taco. Holy shit. Yeah. Cheers. We're trying to figure out how to fit both of our fat asses in these we're just big. Just okay. It's here. Okay, initial disappointment. We wanted cookies, and look, really quickly, individually wrapped.
Individually wrapped.
Trash.
There's no way these are gonna be
No.
good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's good.
It's very good.
I like it.
So if my opinion is correct, and she does not meet all of the criteria to be correctly diagnosed with, or worse, if she fabricated the diagnosis, as she's been accused of doing, what would be the reason? In my opinion, I believe she did it so she could lose weight without receiving blowback from the fat acceptance movement, her fans, and ultimately destroying the brand she has spent years building. During that interview with Self Magazine in 2018, she said that she started eating healthier to help manage her postpartum depression. And she said, quote, "I feel guilty. The amount of people who get thrust into the limelight and they're plus size, they lose weight. The more successful they get, the more weight they lose. It's hard because those people don't owe staying fat to anyone." She said that there's a sense of betrayal that people with bigger bodies feel when a plus size star loses weight. She would not be the first fat acceptance leader to worry about the impact of losing weight. Maui Bigelow was one such person. She was a blogger who built her brand on embracing every pound of her weight. But when she reached 380 pounds, her health began to suffer. She struggled with how to tell her community. She said, quote, "For months, I talked to my counselor about how I would share my truth with you. I was concerned about how you would receive it. I feared the plus size and body positive communities wouldn't understand or respect my choice." There was an article in the New York Times in May of 2020 titled, "Fighting Fat Discrimination, but Still Wanting to Lose Weight." If you remember, a fan of Tess's lost weight and was basically admonished by Tess for the decision to do so, even though it was health related. Body positivity, beauty at every size, and fat acceptance and diet culture are getting blended together, and that is something that really needs to be discussed. But that's for another time. The point is, if Tess is feeling the pressure to maintain her weight for the good of the fat acceptance, body positivity movement, but has made a personal decision to get healthier, for reasons one can only speculate, then in my opinion, the diagnosis of an eating disorder seems like the stone that can kill two birds. First, she gets to take control of her health, potentially lose weight, and gain the benefits of a healthier lifestyle. Second, she also gets to keep her brand and assure her supporters that this is the same woman who has been preaching F your beauty standards, but that she has a medical disorder, so she is seeking treatment, not turning her back on the movement that made her an international name. That's just my opinion, of course. Only Tess knows the truth. All in all, Tess Holliday has done great things for the body positivity movement. She has definitely impacted the world of beauty and fashion for the better and created opportunities for those who previously could only watch from the sidelines. It really bothered me that she seems to have deviated so far from where she began, and the diagnosis was the icing on the cake. Messaging has an impact, and those with platforms have a responsibility to communicate accurate information, especially when they build their brand as an influencer, as Tess has. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Is it possible she has this specific ED? Or do you think she was misdiagnosed? Or do you think she's being deceptive? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.